times a year throughout the spring and summer, and they would go and harvest as many buffalo as they could. The buffalo then would be brought back here and used for a variety of different things. Buffalo was very important to all of the Northern Plains Indian societies, and the Hidatsa were no different. Buffalo is what they used for shelter. Their teepees were made from buffalo hides. Their clothing, their blankets, one of their main sources of food, meat, was made from buffalo hide. So very important. The Hidatsa men would spend a lot of time doing that. Also, the Hidatsas were warriors. This was a place where there could be conflicts could arise, where they might have certain times when they had war with their enemies. The Hidatsas were great warriors. So between being a warrior and a hunter, these were two occupations that were very dangerous for the Hidatsa. So men would concentrate on that. The women would concentrate on the things that kept the village going. That's why they were the owners of the land and the owners of the earth lodges, and they kind of ran the village really on a day-to-day. The men, they'd be out hunting and being warriors. But both these occupations were very dangerous. So a man wasn't expected really to live much past his 20s. Many men died very early because these were two jobs that were very dangerous. Hunting buffalo on a horse with a bow and arrow, pretty dangerous, and obviously being a warrior is dangerous. So in a Hidatsa Mandan village, you might find the ratio maybe 3 women to every 1 man. So it worked way better to live in a society, what we could call a matrilineal society, where the women were the ones who controlled a lot of the things that happened in the village. It just kind of kept it going together better. Well, we're here in the Earth Lodge, so we should take a look around the Earth Lodge. You can kind of get an idea of how it was lived in. You look around here, there's no rooms, but they did have beds. See if I can get, if you guys can see that there, that's a canopied bed. You can see it's, what it is a bed that has a canopy of buffalo hides over it, and then inside of it is also buffalo hides, kind of used as blankets. So if you look here, you guys can see that. So this Earth Lodge, our Earth Lodge, just has two beds. It has this canopy bed and a bed that I can't really, the camera won't really show you right now. It just, there's a pole in the way, but that bed doesn't have a canopy, and that's a bed children may have slept on. So if there's 20 people living in here, there'd be more than 2 beds. But for our Earth Lodge, we have the 2 beds: a canopied bed, married couple, kind of a bedroom, and then a bed without a canopy, just like a little platform where with buffalo hides and pillows and all that stuff, where the kids would have slept. Also in the Earth Lodge, if we pan around this way, you can kind of get a glimpse of it. Just doesn't show up the best through the timber, but right there, right behind me, is, you can kind of see the buffalo fur hanging back there. Anyways, back there what we have is a sacred area, a sacred spot like an altar. So in each Earth Lodge, the people who would have been involved in different religious ceremonies, they would have had items they would have needed to bring to those ceremonies. Well, they would have had a special place in the Earth Lodge, off limits to everybody else who would have been in the Earth Lodge. That's where they would have stored that stuff. Other things that are neat to look at here in the Earth Lodge: par fleshes. They're hanging from the ceiling. These par fleshes are really common with Native American tribes in the Northern Plains. They would have been, they're made from rawhide. They're essentially boxes, different shapes of boxes made from rawhide. What rawhide is the untanned hide of a buffalo. So you can have a process called tanning, where you can take a buffalo hide and make it soft, make shirts and blankets out of it. Or you can not tan it, leave it hard, and make like par fleshes out of it. Well, those par fleshes were essentially like what you may have at your house, Rubbermaid containers, something like that. Something where you would keep your summer stuff in the winter, or vice versa. those are called parfleshes. Women would have made the parfleshes. They would have done the decorating of the parfleshes. Whenever you see what women would have done, typically, is when they would have colored or decorated even a buffalo hide or parfleshes, you would have seen a lot of that with the geometric shapes and colors. Men would have done some decorating of hides themselves. And you can, if we get a look at this hide, this is a real interesting buffalo hide here, you guys can see. But this is a hide, a replica of a hide that Prince Maximilian received from Chief Forebears. So a Mandan chief named Forebears made this hide and gave it to a prince from Europe who was traveling here in the early 1830s. It's really interesting if we look at the hide, you can see what he would have done is he would have colored some shapes and colors as well, but he would also had a lot of scenes. Kind of, if we get a look at that there, you can see that he would have been drawing a lot of scenes from battles that he was in. So if a man had any particular accomplishment that he was really proud of, he would have wrote it down in pictures on a hide like this, and that way he could have showed it to his friends. Maybe it would have helped jog his memory if he ever forgot that he was in battle at one point and he did this deed that he was really proud of. Other things here, we look around the earth lodge. We have a center earth lodge. A circular earth lodge. I'm kind of standing in the middle of it, and right behind me is the fire pit. Here you guys can see the fire pit. You can see the charcoal where we've had fires before. This is what would have provided the heat for the earth lodge. You know, it gets cold up here in North Dakota in the wintertime. They would have needed a heat source, so they would have had wood and they would have burned it here in the earth lodge. You can also see, if we look close enough here, we have two clay pots. These pots are made from clay from the Missouri River that has been fired, you know, like pottery is, baked so it's hard, and that's what they would use to cook their food. So if we were to walk into a Hidatsa Earth Lodge, a lot of times there'd be a little fire going, there'd probably be some food cooking. Anytime you would be invited to a Hidatsa Earth Lodge, or anytime you go to a Hidatsa Earth Lodge, especially if the man of the house is a leader, a chief, what have you, he would have been expected to give you food. One thing the Hidatsas really, I think, looked for in their leadership was generosity. So if you were, like I said, to go into a Hidatsa Earth Lodge like this, you would probably be expected to eat some food. And it would have been rude of you not to take it. You would have taken that food, even if you weren't hungry, and maybe you would have eaten it later. So this is kind of the general area I'm standing on. Standing in here, we kind of showed a bed where they would have done. There's some tables where they would have worked. Well, here they would have spread out maybe buffalo hides on the floor, not just dirt like what we have now, but buffalo hides. They would have sat around here, and this is where they would have taken a lot of the day-to-day activities would have taken place. This is where they would have gathered to tell stories or to share a meal. They would have cooked here, they would have ate here. This is where the men would have gathered to plan a hunt or a war party. If we look in front of that again, if we look in front of that hide again, you guys can see there's a little chair there, or like a bench. That's called a tuka, or a place of honor, and that's where honored guests would have came. We had some honored guests that the Hidatsas had some honored guests as well that came here that they could have stayed in place like or sat in a tuka. Lewis and Clark, when they visited, they were visitors here to the Mandan Hidatsas. They spent the winter at Fort Mandan, not far away from here, so they would have visited the Earth Lodges. They probably would have sat there. For